The immoral majority rules. It is no longer a moral majority that rules. They are a minority. Today, there has been exposed a powerful so-called government that is running the leaders of the representatives of this government, who live in fear of losing their jobs, thus losing their comfort zones, as this so-called government hires them, hanging over their heads positions, pensions, the welfare of their families and lifestyle. All protests will be put down by those hired prophets of Balaam, hired to curse those not of this power elite. Therefore, pray not for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear thee. On this narrow road, this would be the cry to those to the right and to those to the left of this narrow road. To the right, the religious world would object and say we should continue to pray. If there comes a time to embrace and there comes a time to not embrace, and I'm saying today, God's telling us not to embrace this immoral majority of the general public, the will of the people, represented by its representatives in our government today. It's an immoral majority that rules. The voice of a small minority have been those who have dared to be brave enough to stand up and expose this so-called government behind this government that's truly running this show, that truly isn't a government, but feel that they are a government to themselves and above law and rule. They can't be touched. They've been challenged in our courts, and they have won. They have been shown to control more and more every day the land, the sea, the air, and every aspect of our lives, using the element of fear. And on this narrow road, if you don't come to comprehend it, the love of God, which is true love, unconditional, that casts out this fear, you will live in fear. And it will be this fear that this so-called government, this power elite, who cannot be touched, of the powers that be, that will rule you. The secular world and the religious world are no longer to be followed. We're called to a narrow road, and it will end up on this narrow road judged by both worlds. It was Jude who warned of this generation. Woe unto them, for they have gone the way of Cain, and run greedily after the error of Balaam for reward, and perish in the gainsaying of Kor. I've expressed this and shared this in other videos, but briefly, the way of Cain is the way of own self-righteousness, no longer dependent by God. We're seeing the results of such a nation that has thrown God or any idea of God out completely, or twisted it to the point you no longer can identify it. They're going in the way of Cain, and run greedily after the error of Balaam, who was a prophet hired by a world, a government. You don't want that. prophets for hire, secular and religious prophets, having us succumb to the wishes of a corrupt government who has turned God out of his education system in the halls of his Congress and Senate, perish in the gainsaying of Kor. Kor had come against Moses, a man chosen of God to rule the people of Israel, challenging him, saying that they heard from God as well, that they could represent God as much as Moses. And God proved otherwise. Now you got people in religion that would pick up on this and think, well, they are representing God. Which one? You're so busy shooting one another in the foot, you can't even see what's happening in this world. You can't take the wisdom what's going on in this world, understand that, let alone to gain the wisdom that God's trying to give us off this narrow road. Each one challenging the other, that they're hearing from God, to the point no one knows what the truth is. I tell you what, you will not get the truth today if you don't find this straight and narrow road. It says few would find it. You're going to either go with a secular world or religious opinion and get into debates and be so distracted by the cares, affairs of this world that you will not see what's going on with this so-called government, let alone what it is that God is allowing today to happen. And we'll blame the devil, and we'll blame secret societies, Bilderbergers, everybody else for what's happening today, when the truth of the matter, whether you accept this or not, and for saying this you'd be charged with high treason, like Jeremiah was. High treason by the secular and religious world, and heresy from the religious world, for preaching what many in the religious world are saying, that you'd embrace this government, that you'd pray for this government, or going the other extreme saying you are to fight for this world and this government. I'm no longer praying for these people. What's happening today is an act of God's own power, utilizing a federal government, using Russia, China, like you once used Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, and once used Pilate of the Roman government of that day. And all these other powers that think they have power, and which are no better than Pilate, who had thought he had power to crucify the Son of God or let him go. And Jesus says to them, you have no power other than what my Father gives you from above. All power has been now given to the Son, and the Son of God is saying to you, he's given them this power, not to pray for this people no more, to pray for or against the powers that be, will be a prayer against the very hand of God himself. It was this Son of Man, this Son of God manifested in flesh, to whom all power was given, who had said, if my kingdom was of this world, my disciples would have fought for me. Do not fight for this kingdom of this world any longer. Become that which God had called you to become, a called out assembly. No longer participating in the secular world, no longer participating in the religious world, but seeing a kingdom not made with hands. Fight for this. Calling out secular and religious will to a narrow road, and taking the offering that God is offering. There may have been a time to build up, but we're living in a day of the time to tear down. This kingdom of this world no longer represents the kingdom of God. It's time for you to come out. And secular and religious will both judge you, calling you terrorists, demonizing everything you may be saying, or totally ignoring you. If they have hated me, they will hate you. A test of allegiance to one king or the other. You must choose this day and age. Unlike before, between two kingdoms, that which was made with hands, either by this government or by your own hands, and your own self-willed religious ideas. You have to choose between two kingdoms, one made with hands or not made with hands. That which is temporal compared to that which is eternal. You can be in this world, you don't have to be of that world. That's the way it always should have been. You are called to be strangers and pilgrims. The world loves its own. Woe unto those who are well spoken of. Consider. You're not like of this world, secular or religious, and their kingdom building. You have a kingdom prepared before the foundations of this world.